وجاد وجل من تكريمه بانا في سار مولد من في البار ربانا
FONCAB TV télé Khadimou Rassoul
واجعل جميع العلماء الحاملين واجعل جميع عاملين مخلصين واجعل جميع المخلصين ساحدين واجعل جميع سائدين الناسين.
All right, so we're going to jump to refining your resume. So I'll share an example of mine when we get to it, but when it comes to the resume, your resume should have the following section. So it'll have a header, which will have your name, your email address, your current city, and your LinkedIn page. And some people put their phone numbers on there too. That's totally optional. That's up to you. If you're not checking your email often and you're better with your phone, then I would say put your phone number in there. But for the most part, most jobs will not just be randomly calling you. They'll be emailing you. So just making sure whatever email address you have up there, it's one that's up to date, because I cannot tell you the amount of people who, like, some even like my close friends who would be like, oh my God, I forgot I applied to this job and I haven't checked my email in like a month. And then I went and checked and I missed an interview opportunity because I don't check that email often. So whatever email address you check, make sure it's one that's in your phone or it's in your kind of save that you check often. And then the other thing is making sure you're checking your spam and junk, because a lot of like recruiter emails actually sometimes tend to go to your junk or your spam box. Then you'll have your education. So you'll have a list of all your degrees. If you have any relevant certification, you could list them there, scholarships as well. So when it comes to education, you can do this a couple of ways. You can either have your education on the top right under your header, or you can have it at the end of your resume. And I'll show mine and explain why mine is at the end of my resume. Then you have your professional experience. And with that, you'll have your title, your employer, and your city, and the city that it's located in. And then you'll typically have anywhere from 2 to 3, sometimes 4 bullets under each one, detailing the impact and the results of the job that you did. And if you have numbers and like percentages to show where that impact is, the better. Then you'll have like your skills, your interests, and additional. So this is like, you're part of what organizations and nonprofits are you a part of? What languages do you speak? What fellowships have you gotten before? You could also put your scholarship and relevant certification there as well. So this is a little small, so what I'll do is share this. Can everyone still see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And so this is just an example of mine where, I have my name on the top and I have it in all caps and bolded, so and a little bit bigger than everything else. I have my number, email, and then a link, my LinkedIn page, so that whoever gets this can automatically go and look at my LinkedIn. On the top, I have, instead of having my education first, because I'm at a certain point in my career where people don't, like, they care, but they really don't care. Where I went to school, they're more interested in what can you do and can you do it well and can it help advance the company? And so that's why I have my core competencies first. And so you can call this a couple of different things. You can call it your skills, you can call it capabilities. I call them my core competencies. And so I have a list of the things that I know I do really well that I can do in a number of different jobs. And so all of these are different things that can be transferable to other jobs that I can take in the future. And the thing is also, a lot of the words that I'm using here are words that that you will actually find in a lot of job descriptions. So as you're thinking about your skills and making a list of it on your resume, look at a job description and see what they have listed there. And obviously making sure it's relevant to you, but using those same words and language, because usually a lot of companies, especially now, they use algorithms and typically machine learning and a bunch of different software to go through resumes. So they may not actually be looking through your resume in the same way, like one by one, as they used to in the past. So if you have these keywords that can be found in your resume that are also found in the job description, that can help a ton. So then I have my professional experience. And so I have, my current role. I update my resume like every 4 to 6 months. And the reason I do that is because even though I'm not looking for a job, I always want to be ready. So I would recommend updating your resume every 4 to 6 months, and it'll have your relevant work experience and all of that. And also, even if you're not looking for a job, a recruiter may reach out to you. You should always have the conversation, because even if you're not ready to move, it doesn't hurt to build your network. And so I have my current position there, and a couple of bullet points on some of the things that I do. And then I have my other roles that I've held. And so as you can see, I have, Microsoft. I did a rotation program, so I have it split up a little bit, but the roles that I did in that, and I always have the dates under, and as well as the location, and everything is lined up really well and consistent. So you want to make sure if one thing is italics, make sure it's italics for all of them. If it's bolded, make sure it's bolded. If it's lowercase, make sure it's lowercase. So making sure things look organized and neat. So this looks very like clean and easy to read. Then I have, a couple of more work experience. So I have my company. I have a couple of other places that I've worked in the past. And then down here, I have my additional section. And so this is a list of like things that I'm involved in, and organizations that I participate in. And then I have my education on the bottom. So I actually don't have my certificates and all of that on my resume. I have them in my LinkedIn though. And the reason why I don't have them on my resume is because I wanted to keep it to 2 pages. I don't want to go over 2 pages for mine. Depending on how many years of work experience you have or what work you've done in the past, most people, I would say, typically try to keep their resume to 1 page. But again, I've been working since 2011, technically, probably a little before that. But I graduated college in 2011. I've held a lot of different roles. And so for me, 2 pages is actually it's actually good, because it allows me to talk about all the things that I've done. And so lots of different ways to organize. Microsoft Word's actually, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to advertise for Microsoft, but Microsoft Word actually has resume templates that you can use. So if you don't know where to start or how to organize yours, there are a bunch of templates that you can use right on Word that'll allow you to do it. And then I believe online also you can find some. So wanted to share that. And then what I want us to do, if there aren't any questions on that, is I'm going to jump into LinkedIn, and then I'll show you all a couple of things on LinkedIn.
That's good questions about the resume.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So at what point should you stop having your education first? And I noticed you talked about yours not having.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at what point should stop having education first on your resume?
Yeah, so I moved my education to the bottom last year. So 2019 was when I started moving it to the bottom. And so I would say it's a personal decision. I think as you think about your skills and your capabilities and the impact that you're making in your work, if you have enough of that in your core competency section and in your professional experience, you can start moving your education to the end of your page, because what you want the recruiter and the person looking at your resume to focus on is your skills and your capabilities, not just the degrees you have, right? Like, it's cool I have these degrees, but the degrees don't necessarily tell you what I'm good at and what I'm capable of doing in a day-to-day job. And so that's why I would say kind of think about shifting to having it at the bottom, because you want the focus to be on like, hey, look at all the skills and the things that I'm really good at, and look at my job description that actually tells you that I'm good at all these things. And then, yeah, like I got these cool degrees, but that doesn't define the things that I've done and the things that I'm capable of doing. So on average, I would say most people start moving it to the bottom, typically anywhere around 6 to 8 years after undergrad, depending on your work experience and the things that you've done. The thing to keep in mind, though, is if you're like in academia, you'll most likely have your education up front because you work in academia. And so your education is important for that. Not to say that it's not for other things, but for academia, you may actually have it up front and then have your professional experience and then publish work and things like that later on. Great question.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it. So the other one is, I know there are a lot of college students on the line, and sometimes they tend to have some high school stuff on their resume.
Yeah.
So when do they need to stop that, or what kind of stuff should they keep
Yeah.
in their college resumes?
Yeah. So let's see. So I know I'm sorry to answer it again with it depends, but if there are, I mean, as you can tell, I have nothing here from any job that I did in college. It's just not on my resume anymore. And so I think I started removing those things in 2013, like 2, 3 years after, because the two jobs that I had after college at Barnard and at the Fay School, these bullets actually used to be longer, and those two actually used to take up a full page. And so I didn't, and the things that I did in college, if they weren't relevant to the work that I was doing and the work that I wanted to do, there's no point in having that space be taken in especially if your resume is one page. That's extra space that you can use to expand and give more detail on the work that you're doing now, and actually like place emphasis on that. And so I would say if there are anywhere from 3 to 5 years after college, you should start removing your like undergrad jobs and stuff from your resume. Again, unless it is extremely relevant to the work that you're doing now. But I will say for most of us, it's usually not relevant. And maybe it's like volunteer stuff, which you can go ahead and keep. But again, typically after 5 years, you can remove that.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. I think we can move on to LinkedIn now. One question I'll just shoot right now is how to know your LinkedIn page to put it on the resume.
That's yep. So when it comes to LinkedIn, a couple of things that you should make sure you have is have a professional photo. So I notice a lot of people don't have pictures on their LinkedIn. So making sure you get a headshot or you have something professional on your actual LinkedIn is extremely important. And so choose a professional photo. You can actually take it on your iPhone now if you have a white background or a solid color background. Making sure you have if you're a girl, simple makeup, nothing extra. Just subtle makeup if you're putting makeup on before you do take your picture, but you want to kind of look as natural as possible. So if you wear a hijab, wear your hijab on your photo. I've actually gotten this question from a lot of Muslim women who wear hijabs. If that is who you are and that's what you wear your hijab on your LinkedIn photo, because when you go in person for the interview or do a video interview, they're going to see it anyways. So do not shy away from having it. Like, if you're comfortable enough wearing the hijab, you should be comfortable enough having it on your LinkedIn photo. If you're not there yet, I'm happy to have a conversation with you on why you should do it, because it is a part of your identity. It is a part of who you are. And so like my LinkedIn photo right now, I think I have braids because I usually don't wear wigs and like straight hair. I usually have braids. But that's who I am. I tend to have braids a lot. And so that's the picture that I have on my LinkedIn. If you're a guy, if you have dreads or if you have longer hair, whatever, like just make sure it looks like who you are. You don't want people to be surprised. Formulate a strong headline. I'll walk through that, but we'll tell you how to all do that. Fill out the about section, edit your profile URL. I'll show you all how to do that. Fill out all the sections of your profile. Do not be lazy. Stay active. So this is something that I'm telling people to do, but I need to do a better job at. But try to stay as active as you can on LinkedIn, whether it's your liking post. I do a good job at liking posts. So if someone posts something, I'll like it or I'll reshare once in a while. But I don't tend to create a lot of posts. I think the last time I created a post was like the beginning of June. Maybe actually it was after actually. So I like sharing stories about other people, but I don't do a good job of like sharing my own stories. So like my sister is a contact tracer. And so whenever she does stuff and like I get the article, I actually post it and I tag her. And so I'm like placing emphasis on her, which is great because then she can reshare it. But then it doesn't really say much about me, right? I'm not a contact tracer. I don't work in public health. Like, cool, like I'm posting this because it's important, but what does that say about my brand and the work that I do? And then being mindful about your network. So don't just add anyone. And if you're earlier in your career, you may not have this experience right now, but as you move up in your career and you get more roles and things like that, you will get random people adding you on LinkedIn. I think I have about like 200 plus invites that are just sitting because I don't know any of those people. And the reason why I'm not adding them is because either they didn't send a personal message explaining how they found me and why they wanted to connect with me, or I have no connections with them at all. Like, it's not like they're Senegalese or part of like a Muslim organization I'm a part of, or like joined like a call that I led. So if all of you were to add me, I'll actually accept you because I'm like, cool, I did this thing. I know where you're coming from. But the reason why also is because there are a lot of people on LinkedIn who once, like if you approve them, they actually start to tap into your network to the point where it can be annoying to your network. And so just being mindful of that as well. So, especially, I think it happens more so with a lot of international folks, like who are outside of the US, they'll add you because they're selling things or what have you. So let me go to my LinkedIn. This is actually a previous version. I think I've updated it recently. So give me 1 second. Let me just, I think it's loading. Hopefully let me just get out of these things. Okay, so everyone should be able to see it still, but I think it might still be loading. Okay, and then let me answer this question from Noge. For an undergrad student that doesn't have a lot of real work experience, what relevant points do you think they could put emphasis on, put some up front in the, okay. So if you are undergrad, first, the thing I'll say is everything that you're doing is relevant and real work experience. I think it's about how you talk about it. So you have to, the first thing you should do is kind of switch your mindset of like thinking about it as not real work. A lot of the things that I did in undergrad actually helped me really be successful in my first job out of college. So whether it's, if you're a leader in an organization on campus, that is leadership skills you can talk about. If you planned any event or any type of thing within college, you can talk about that because that's event planning. That's, how to organize people, how to meet the needs of people, you know what the people, not just what they need, but how to coordinate and get people together to build a community. If you worked in the dining hall, you have to learn how to deal with people. You learn how to deal with different personalities. You learn how to figure out what are the things that how to operationalize. And again, we're making it sound fancy, right? You learn how to operationalize things in the sense that you're figuring out how do I make these things work and flow together. And so I would say like switch your mindset first and not thinking about it as not real work experience to looking at it as, okay, what are the things that I've done? What are the relevant work experiences that I've had? And how can they actually be connected to a job outside of college? And everything can. And so can your educational experience also. Like all these papers you're writing, all these tests you're studying for, all these presentations you're giving, those are all skills that you're working on that can be applied to a real job. And so just thinking about them as transferable skills and applying it to that, I think is one way of doing that. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm happy to go deeper into that. And if I didn't answer your question properly, just send me a ping or a message if that's the case. So when it comes to LinkedIn, I guess the first thing that I'll cover, let me make sure I cover all of them, is so I have my, my header. So first, here's my professional photo. So I have this picture that, represents me. I feel very well. And then I have a nice background also. You don't have to have a background. So usually LinkedIn has like the regular, it's like blue. But if there's something about you or about something that you believe in, you can put that here as well. So I know a lot of folks at the company put like the Microsoft logo or something like that there. And I used to actually have that at one point, but then I was like, oh, I want to be more like not tied to the company. So if a recruiter was to reach out, they can see like, I'm open. Even though again, I'm not looking, but just making sure it's set up like that. And then I have my my header. So your header, so I'm gonna just click this button, which is to edit your profile. So when you click that, and I'm gonna do it again right now. So when you click the pencil, when you go to your page, they have a new feature where you can do an audio recording of your voice, which I actually did, so that if, you know, especially I think for most of us where people have a hard time pronouncing our names, I do have that. So you can go ahead and actually use that new feature. But my headline, all it says is I'm a program manager at Microsoft and I'm a co-founder at Nakawa Beauty. So it doesn't go into detail. Some people, what their header says is it'll just list out, it'll say something like HR professional invested in people, or marketer who, product marketer, or it'll say communications and public affairs. So it'll sometimes be very quick, but it's not too much detail. I haven't updated it to my new position yet. I plan to in like the next month. I have this thing where I usually wait about 3 months after I start a role and then change it on LinkedIn. Don't ask me why. I was told by a mentor to consider doing that. And so I just kind of do that now. But I have, because I have 2 current roles, the one that I want on top is my Microsoft one, but I also have my Nakawa one if I want it. But I have that. And then I don't have my education showing, but if that's something that you want to have, you can actually have your education show on your intro. And then if you have different degrees, you can kind of select which degrees you want to show. Then I have my, you know, where I'm located and all of that. And so on the bottom, as you can see where it says contact info, this is where you can change your profile URL. So it'll have your profile URL. If you have any websites or phone, email, anything that you want to share, you can do that. I don't use Twitter, so I don't have that. So I'm just going to click this so I can show you all. But at this point, so now it'll show you what my profile URL is. The website that I do have is my Nakawa website for my company. And then I have my email address. It has like the Nakawa Twitter and then my birthday. But my birthday, I don't want it to be visible to everyone because I don't see, LinkedIn isn't a social network for me. So I don't need people to know it's my birthday and wishing me a happy birthday. So I actually have that hidden. And so right now, so you have your profile URL. This is for when, if you forget what it is. So let me show you how to actually change it. Hopefully I can remember. I always have a hard time. Let's see. I always forget how to do it. Give me a second. See. Now we're here. Always. Nope. Always do this. I think I did this in the last session too, where I thought I remembered and then, oh, here it is. I don't know how I missed it. So it's sometimes it's on the right where it'll say edit public profile and URL. So when you click that, it'll actually take you to a whole nother link and it'll show your public. I think there's another way to get there. I'll figure it out, but you can then edit your custom URL. So right now I just have in my first initial last name, which my dad wasn't happy about because he actually has the same, so he's Ajo as well, but I got it before him. And so, you know, once you make it, it's yours and no one else can have it. So, you know, so it could be like S Senate, but I feel like someone probably already has that. So he may have to like just put his full name and that's fine. But edit your URL profile, make it something easy and something related to your name. Like this isn't an Instagram handle. So just keep it professional as well. And when you're actually at this setting, you can change if you're, oh, okay, this is the other way to do it. Actually, it is in your settings. So yes, okay, here's the actual other way to do it now that I remembered. So when you go, once this loads and you're on LinkedIn, sorry, my computer's a little slow. And you click where your little picture is. you click the me, then you go to settings and privacy. And then it says edit your public profile. Then you'll click change. And this is when it'll take you to this page. And then that's how you can get to editing your URL. And then if you're what's actually visible on your page and what's private. And so my page is public. I have it open because I want people to be able to see my LinkedIn and to be able to connect with me. So it's public to everyone. So even if someone was to search my name, they can actually see everything. Whereas you can make it where it's only visible to LinkedIn members or to first degree connections. It's up to you on how you want to share that. And then you can also pick and choose what are the things that you want to show, that you want people to be able to take a look at once they do have access to your LinkedIn. And so that's how you change your URL. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the about section. And so the about section, I'm just going to go back, because there are a couple of sections that you need to make sure you're filling out on your LinkedIn. And one of them is the about, which you don't have to, but I would encourage everyone to do it. And so the about section actually is just typically a couple of sentences that describe your skills and capabilities and who you are and what you're passionate about. So I talk, a little bit about what my core competencies are, and then that I'm passionate about natural skincare, and hair care products, and advocating creating a value chain. And so those are the things that I have in my about. And so figure out what's important to you and have that there. As you can see here, I congratulate people a lot on LinkedIn when they get like new roles and things like that. So making sure you're doing that. And then as I was mentioning earlier, like I post stuff about my sister. I'm a proud big sister. So I post a lot of stuff about like my younger sister. And so then you can see a list of all my activities. I have about 2,200 followers. So the followers aren't necessarily your LinkedIn connections. Those are just people. You can follow someone's page without being connected to them. So there are some people who I follow, but I'm not connected to. So like, typically it's like CVPs and like people in higher, more senior levels. I'm not going to connect with them because I don't know them, but I want to follow their page and see what they're posting and things like that. And so as you can see, I have all of my jobs. I don't have descriptions under each of them, and that's pretty intentional for me. But other people do. You can choose to write like a sentence or two sentences under each of your thing. You can have more as well. Some people, their LinkedIn actually looks like their resume. So they just copied and paste whatever's on their resume onto there. So you can do that if you choose. Then your education is listed. And the cool thing about LinkedIn is you can actually share articles. So if you have different articles about you or that have been posted or published, you can put that on here. So I have that as well. And then whatever license and certifications you have, I actually need to remove this because it's expired. And then whatever nonprofits you're a part of, you can put there. And then your skills. And so I have my skills where it's visible, but you can't see if people like rated them, which is an option that you have. I would actually recommend against having the rating show because it just doesn't look very impressive, to be honest, seeing like, oh, okay, cool, you're good at data analysis, but only 2 people gave you a check for that. So I would actually have it set up like this. And so you go to edit under skills, you can just kind of add the different skills that you have there. And you can add in skills that aren't there either. And then accomplishments, so awards, organizations, and then languages I have there as well. And then all the companies that I follow. So I follow Microsoft, and then I follow a bunch of different companies and journals and things like that. Any questions about LinkedIn? I know that was a bit quick, and I know we're also over time.
Yeah, I think there's one.
Yeah.
The chat.
So yeah, so this is what I was hitting at. So it's up to you if you want to have it detailed or not. I would honestly recommend stepping away from like doing a copy and paste from your resume to your LinkedIn. Instead, like if you have a bunch of bullet points under the different job descriptions, actually taking a look and kind of summarizing some of those into like maybe 2 sentences and having that under your LinkedIn for that job. I think that's easier for people to consume if they're looking at your resume instead of going, if they're looking at your LinkedIn, instead of going and seeing like 4 bullet points under each job that you've held.
Yeah, I think you covered anything that I could
I think there's someone, I think there's one coming.
Yes, a comment. They say,
Oh, okay, just a comment. Okay.
Yeah. And I know there are some parents watching with their kids. So
okay.
The question I wanted to ask you is what age should they start having LinkedIn?
Oh, okay. Yeah. What age? I would say high school. Like so I'm going to use my brother as an example. So he's 22 now, but he started his LinkedIn, I would say his like junior, senior year of college. I would actually say junior year. The reason why is because colleges are actually now starting to look at LinkedIn. So, and usually you'll start kind of doing research and stuff about colleges your sophomore, junior year. And so I would say your junior year, you can start having a LinkedIn and updating it. And you won't have like job experience. You'll have like internships and you might actually have job experience actually, but you'll be able to put that on your LinkedIn. And if you do like, if you get awards and if you do like science fairs and things like that, you can actually start putting that on your LinkedIn. So I would say starting junior year, definitely the beginning of your junior year. So I would say, how old is that? Like 15? I don't know how old you are when you're a junior anymore, but I think 15, 16, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
How do you tailor a resume based on the job you're applying to? So I have 2 different versions of my resume. One that has a list of all of the jobs I've ever held, and one that is more tailored to HR. And so the one that's tailored to HR is specific to the function in the industry that I'm in now. And so I would say have one resume that usually you're not going to share with anyone, but what it does, it acts almost like an inventory in a database where you can dump every single job you've ever had and descriptions for every single one of them. And then when there's a specific job you're applying to, all you have to do is copy and paste certain jobs and descriptions into the new resume. And so in terms of tailoring it to a job you're applying to, you should be tailoring it to the industry and function that you're applying to. So if you're a software engineer, having it be relatable to software engineer. If you're comms, communications, having it related to that. And then another way that I would say I've tailored mine to kind of where it's at now is I looked at job descriptions. And I did this at the beginning of business school before I got into HR, was I looked at job descriptions of different functions of HR that I knew I was interested in. And based on those job descriptions and the language that was used there, I went back and looked at my resume. So you kind of have like these 2 windows. You have the job description, you have your resume. And what I did was I went back and I edited my resume, keeping it relevant and like true to the things that I did, but I made sure the language and the way that I framed things were very well connected to how I know someone in HR would want them to be. Again, a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Yeah, thank you. One last question. This is about applying for jobs, especially for college students. And when is the right time to apply for jobs or internship?
If you're a college student, you should be applying to internships your freshman year. Like try to have an internship that freshman summer. So between your first and second year, if possible. I know it's really hard. It's actually the hardest time to get an internship is between your first and second summer. And so even if you can't get an internship, you can have a job. Like the summer between my first and second year of college, I worked at a restaurant that summer, but it was something that kept me busy, helped me make some money so I can pay for some books and stuff when school started. And then it also gave me skills that I can then talk about when I applied to the internships that I ended up doing the summers after. And so I would say start as soon as you can. All schools, and I'm not going to say most because all schools have career services. So take advantage of your career service in your college because they'll really help you to figure out what are the things that you need in terms of experience. And then they'll also have a list of internships that you can apply to and apply to as many things as possible. Typically your first year and your second year of college, you're still figuring out what you're interested in, unless you're like very much on a track. And at that point, your career services can help give you different options so you can test out different things. And also, what you end up interning in college doesn't mean you're going to end up doing that after college. Like my brother's in finance now. He didn't do anything related to finance when he was in college. Like he didn't even study finance. And so be open, try new things, experience different things, and just be willing to look at different opportunities, even if it's something you've never tried before.
Thank you. Yeah, let me just ask this follow-up question. So, during the school year, when is the right time to apply for internship and jobs? Because I know usually people tend to wait until after like December or January of that school year, and it's probably better to do it earlier.
Yeah. It depends on the roles, but if you're interested in tech, usually the roles get posted about now, actually. So August, September, October is when those roles are posted and when interviews start to happen. So if you're interested in specific industries and specific functions, you need to actually really know when do those companies and when do those industries start to post jobs, because if you miss the boat, you miss the boat, and then you have to wait a whole nother year. And so tech, I'm telling you now, if you're interested in tech and you're in college, they tend to post the roles end of August, early September. So I know Microsoft, for instance, like all the internships for next summer, they're already posted and they're starting to interview. I think Google is a little bit later than us, but they should have started posting theirs as well. And the same thing with Facebook and like Twitter and all these other companies.
Yeah, I know a lot of people make that mistake. That's why I wanted you to talk about it a little bit, because people think, and if you wait, you will have to wait another year, like you said. I think 2 questions in the chat, and then we can wrap up if you don't have anything else.
Yeah. So let's see. Your link. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a chance your LinkedIn page could get a company's attention? It depends on how active you are. And because a lot of recruiters are actually using, so LinkedIn has this thing called LinkedIn Recruiter. And so what it does is it allows recruiters to actually go and look at profiles without you knowing they're looking at your profile. So there'll be some times where you'll see like, oh, a recruiter looked at your page, but there are a lot of times where recruiters are putting in different searches. So there's like a search box within, and the reason I noticed is because I did recruiting for one of my rotations and we use LinkedIn Recruiter to like source and look for candidates. But when you go on LinkedIn Recruiter, they'll type in whether it's like program manager or they're typing marketing, and they'll have different filters that it has. So they'll have filters for location, for education level, for skill sets, for years out of college. They'll have all these different filters there, and then they'll put certain keywords in the search, and then all of the profiles will pop up. So the more your profile is like up to date and detailed, and you have all of these different boxes filled out, the better, because then your chances of showing up higher in those searches actually happen. So in a scale of 1 to 10, depending on the company, it could easily be a 10, but it could also be a 1 if the company doesn't use LinkedIn and they use other searching tools like ZipRecruiter and all these other ones that exist. Or if it's a company that just looks at people's resumes and doesn't use LinkedIn. And then the second question, in this pandemic situation, what's a good strategy to stand out among other candidates? I think the best strategy right now is, especially like and I don't know your situation, but if you're working or not working, one of the best ways to stand out is to build on different skill sets and capabilities that are in certain jobs that you're interested in. And as I mentioned earlier, LinkedIn Learning has a lot of different ways you can do that for free. But the more you can strengthen those skills and get these different trainings in, the more you'll stand out. And then also another thing that people shy away from doing is sometimes reaching out to recruiters if you're connected with them. Some recruiters don't like it, so I will say that depending on the company. I know Microsoft, they hate it because we're such a big company and there are a lot of people applying. But if you're applying for like a smaller size company with like fewer people than, we have like over 160,000 employees, right? So it's a massive scale that we're hiring at. But if you're applying to like a startup or a smaller company, reach out to the recruiter, reach out to the manager on LinkedIn if you see them that they posted something, and just send a message saying you're interested. And on LinkedIn, you can actually attach your resume when you're sending messages. So you can attach your resume. So ultimately shoot your shot, right? Like do what you have to do to put yourself out there. And sometimes it means some people will call it aggressive, but I call it being strategic. And so it's being strategic and putting yourself in front of them.
All right. Let's see.
Okay, and then there was one more, talked a lot about in terms of networking. What is one big advice you would give to your younger self about making connections with mentors and people in general? I think the big advice I would give myself, and it's something that I'm still working on, is sustaining relationships with mentors. Because a lot of times you start to build relationships with people and then you move on to your next job or you move on to your next, stage in your life, and you don't follow up with those people and like tell them where you're at and how you're doing. And so one thing that I want to do a better job of, and that I wish I had done earlier with a lot of network mentors that I had early on, is I wish I had done like every 6 months or once a year, sending them an email and just like saying, hey, just checking in, happy holidays. The holidays is actually the best time to do it. Happy holidays. Hope you're doing well as you're going into the holiday season. Just wanted to give you a quick update on where I'm at right now. Would love to just jump on a call and then do like a 30-minute conversation with them. So sustaining those relationships is something that I would have done. And then the other thing that I would have done also is there were a bunch of people who I think would have been great mentors, but I was too nervous or shy to or timid to ask them to be my mentors when I should have just asked, And so if there's someone that you find, like their career path is interesting or you could really learn from them, just reach out and ask. Like it never hurts to just like ask, and it might be like a call that you have with them once a year. So definitely do that.
All right. Can we talk about a little bit about Tequill? Then you can.
Yeah. Sure. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Tequill is a. Let me exit out of here if it'll let me. So Tequill is a nonprofit that we. See if it'll let me. I got a new laptop, so it's.
Okay.
Let's see if my other one crashed last week. So. Cool, perfect. So Tequill, if everyone can still see my screen, is an organization we started, I guess we launched in like March. And so right now there are a little bit over 150 people who are part of the network. And we use this app called Mobilize to really stay connected and stay grounded. And we host a bunch of different events throughout the year. And so we've held a couple of different sessions. So I did this one back in May. We've had one on race and like the criminal justice system. We had one on personal finance and building generational wealth. And we have a couple more that are coming down the pipeline in the next couple of months or so. But ultimately it's built for Senegalese American professionals who are just trying to find other people who look like us and who've experienced being Senegalese American, and finding ways to just stay connected and to network. And we use the platform for a couple of different reasons. So both for hosting sessions, but we also have it so that people can crowdsource information. Like if they are trying to work on a project, they can use it for that. People have also been using it to post jobs. Like if their companies are hiring, they use Tequill to post jobs and things like that. But it's an awesome network. It's still fairly new. We were not even a year yet. But again, we've only been around, I guess, now almost 6 months, and are just really looking to grow it and to have a network where Senegalese Americans can feel empowered, can feel connected, and we could all like really work together ultimately to improve each other's careers. And we have people from all walks of life and different careers in it. So we have folks who are chefs, we have folks who are, pilots, we have people like myself who work in corporate, we have folks in nonprofit, we have doctors in there and nurses. And so it's a really awesome network. So if any of you are interested and are starting your educational career, so right now we have like minimum of usually like 2 to 3 years of work experience, but apply. I think we're also thinking about expanding to like Tequill Junior. So we're working on figuring out how we can do that to make sure we're staying connected to the younger Senegalese American community as well. So check out the website and take a look, learn a bit more. We're also on Instagram, so you can find us on Instagram. The handle is @tequill.usa. We don't post as much, but again, follow us.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's really interesting. And that's, as I mentioned in the beginning, that's where I knew about you. So it's a great platform to know what Senegalese people are doing out there. And I see how great our people are doing. And as we talked about networking, it's a great tool to network with your people. Yeah. And yeah, it's free to join. And when you join and sign in, you will receive email about updates, about events. They recently have the Grand Place and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really, I encourage each one of you to join that, inshallah. And yeah, so if you don't have anything else, I guess we can wrap up. We are over time now. Sorry about that.
No worries. We started a little late. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn again. I'm happy to answer questions on there also if you think of other stuff. But yeah, I hope this was helpful and you all got some gems or learnings from it.
Yeah, we really did. A lot of thank yous, and yeah, we really appreciate it. We appreciate your time, and yeah, so much again. And once I get the presentation, I'll be able to share it with everyone in the group. Yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you so much again. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
jërë ngeen jëf ci vidéo bii ngeen doon seetaan képp ku ci bëggaat yeneen vidéo da ngay abonné fii ci FONCAB TV. FONCAB di fondation Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba bu Nord America bi nga xam ne moo lëkkale daayira yi nekk fii ci États-Unis ak ca Canada.